The clerk at the impound lot looked at Maya's paperwork without much interest. He was a middle-aged man with grease stains on his shirt and tired eyes. He had probably seen hundreds of people come through here, all of them upset about their impounded vehicles. "That'll be $350, he said. Maya stared at him. $350? For what? Towing fee is $150. Storage fee is $50 per day. You've been here half a day, but we charge for the full day. Then there's the administrative processing fee of $150. My car was impounded illegally. I was falsely arrested. The charges were dropped. Why should I pay anything?" The clerk shrugged. "Lady, I just work here. You want to dispute the fees, you need to file a form with the city. That takes about 6 weeks to process. In the meantime, your car stays here and the fees keep adding up." Maya felt her blood pressure rising. This was the system working exactly as it was designed. Even when you were innocent, even when the police were wrong, you still had to pay. And if you couldn't pay, your car stayed locked up, charging you more money every day. "Can I pay with a credit card?" Maya asked through gritted teeth. "Cash or certified check only?" "You don't take credit cards? What century is this?" "Those are the rules," the clerk said without sympathy. Maya didn't have $350 in cash on her. She turned to David. "Do you have cash?" David checked his wallet. "I have about $80. Maya closed her eyes and took a breath. She was a successful attorney. She had money in the bank. But she couldn't access it right now because this place only took cash. It was designed to punish poor people who couldn't afford to get their cars back. "There's an ATM down the street," the clerk said helpfully. "But it has a $300 daily limit, so you'd need to come back tomorrow for the rest." "And the fees would go up by another $50, Maya said. That's right. This was extortion. Legal extortion, but extortion nonetheless. Maya wanted to argue more, but she knew it wouldn't help. The clerk didn't make the rules. He just enforced them. If she wanted to change things, she'd have to go higher up the chain. "I'll be back," Maya said. She turned and walked out of the office with David following her. "This is ridiculous," David said. "They arrest you for nothing, impound your car for nothing, and then charge you money to get it back?" "Welcome to the criminal justice system," Maya said bitterly. "This is what my clients go through all the time. Now I understand it personally." They drove to a bank where Maya could withdraw cash. She took out $300 from the ATM, and David added his $80. They drove back to the impound lot. Maya paid the fee and got her car keys back. Finally, after hours of dealing with the aftermath of her arrest, Maya was back in her own car. She sat in the driver's seat and gripped the steering wheel. David had parked next to her and was waiting to make sure she was okay to drive. Maya started the engine. Everything seemed normal. But she noticed that her gym bag had been rifled through. Her work files were out of order. Hansen had gone through everything, looking for evidence of crimes that didn't exist. The violation felt personal and invasive. She followed David back to their house. It was almost 3 in the afternoon now. Zoe would be home from school in an hour. Maya needed to figure out how to explain this to her daughter. How do you tell an 8-year-old that the police arrested her mother for no reason? How do you explain that sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones you need protection from? At home, Maya changed out of her coffee-stained suit. She put on comfortable clothes and made herself a cup of tea. David sat with her at the kitchen table. They didn't talk much. Sometimes silence was better than words. Maya's phone kept buzzing with notifications. The videos of her arrest had gone viral. They had been shared thousands of times. News outlets were picking up the story. Maya Thompson's name was trending on social media. People were angry on her behalf. They were demanding justice. They were calling for Officer Hansen to be fired. But Maya knew that social media outrage didn't always lead to real change. She had seen too many cases where everyone was angry for a week, and then people forgot and moved on to the next story. If she wanted real justice, she had to fight for it through the legal system. Her phone rang. It was Patricia Chen, one of the senior partners at her law firm. Maya answered. "Maya, I just heard what happened. This is outrageous," Patricia said. I know. I'm still processing it all. James filled me in on the details. We're all behind you 100%. Whatever you need, you've got it. Research support, paralegal help, expert witnesses, anything. Thank you, Patricia. I really appreciate that. Have you thought about who's going to represent you? You can't represent yourself in this. Too much emotional involvement. Maya had been thinking about this. Patricia was right. Representing yourself in a case where you were the victim was a bad idea. You needed someone who could be objective, someone who could see the case clearly without personal feelings getting in the way. Would you take the case? Maya asked. Me? Maya, I'd be honored. But are you sure? You're one of the best civil rights attorneys in the state. You could get anyone to represent you. I trust you. And you know this area of law as well as I do. Plus, having a senior partner from a respected firm will send a message that this is serious. Then I accept. We'll make them pay for what they did to you, Maya, both literally and figuratively. They talked for a few more minutes about strategy and next steps. Patricia would start drafting the federal lawsuit. Maya would gather all the evidence and witness statements. They would file within the week while the public attention was still strong. After hanging up with Patricia, Maya called her paralegal James. What did you find on Hansen? James had been busy. Okay, so Officer Derek Hansen, age 38, 12 years with the department. Like I told you earlier, he was sued 5 years ago for excessive force. That case settled for an amount that wasn't disclosed, but court records show the plaintiff's medical bills were over $15,000. So Hansen hurt someone badly enough to require hospitalization. What else? 3 formal complaints filed against him in the past year alone. All 3 were dismissed after investigation by Internal Affairs, but I found the complaint forms. They're public record. All 3 complainants were people of color, 2 black men and 1 Hispanic woman. All claimed Hansen stopped them without cause, was aggressive and intimidating, and threatened them with arrest. Why were the complaints dismissed? The official reason was insufficient evidence. But reading between the lines, it looks like it was just the word of the complainants against Hansen's word. And the department chose to believe their officer. Do we have contact information for those 3 people? I'm working on it. 2 of them are local. I should be able to track them down. The 3rd one moved out of state, but I'll find her. Good. I want to talk to all of them. If we can show a pattern of behavior, it strengthens our case significantly. Already on it. I'm also putting together a timeline of everything that happened today, minute by minute, and I'm downloading all the videos from social media before they disappear. You're the best, James. Just doing my job. Hey, Maya. I'm really sorry this happened to you, but I'm glad you're the one it happened to, if that makes sense. Because you're one of the few people who can actually fight back and win. Maya understood what he meant. It was a terrible thing that happened, but she had the tools to do something about it. How many people had Hansen done this to who couldn't fight back? How many people just accepted it because they didn't know any better or didn't have resources? The front door opened. Zoe came running in with her backpack bouncing on her shoulders. David's mother had picked her up from school, a favor they had arranged after the arrest. Zoe ran to Maya and hugged her. Mommy, why didn't you pick me up today? Grandma said you had work stuff. Maya looked at David. He shrugged. They hadn't told his mother the real reason either. The fewer people who knew right now, the better, at least until Maya decided how to handle it publicly. I did have work stuff, baby, but I'm here now. How was school? Zoe launched into a long story about something that happened at recess. Maya listened and smiled and asked questions, but part of her mind was elsewhere. She was thinking about how to explain this to her daughter. Not today, maybe. Zoe was too young to understand all of it, but someday soon they would need to have a conversation about police and race and justice. That evening, after Zoe went to bed, Maya sat down at her home computer. She opened a blank document and started writing. She wrote down everything she could remember about the encounter with Hansen. Every word he said, every action he took, the exact time things happened, the names of witnesses, the location of security cameras that might have additional footage. She wrote for over an hour, filling page after page with details. This document would be the foundation of her case. Every fact mattered. Every detail could be important. David brought her more tea and rubbed her shoulders. "You should rest. It's been a long day." "I know, but I need to get this down while it's fresh in my memory. Details fade over time." "You're going to win this case, you know. You have everything on your side. Video evidence, witnesses, Hansen's history, it's open and shut." Maya wished she could be that confident. "Cases like this are never open and shut. The department will protect Hansen. The police union will fight us. They'll try to dig up anything they can about my past to make me look bad. They'll argue that Hansen felt threatened or that I was actually being aggressive and the videos don't show the full story. They'll do everything they can to avoid accountability. But you have the truth on your side. The truth doesn't always win, David. You know that. How many cases have we seen where the evidence was clear and the officers still got away with it?" David didn't have an answer for that. They both knew the statistics. Very few police officers faced serious consequences for misconduct. The system was designed to protect them. But Maya wasn't just any victim. She was an attorney who specialized in exactly this type of case. She knew all the tactics the department would use. She knew how to counter them. And she had resources that most victims didn't have. Over the next few days, Maya's life became consumed with building her case. She met with the 3 people who had filed complaints against Hansen. Their stories were eerily similar to hers. Hansen had stopped them in the same wealthy white neighborhood. He had been aggressive and intimidating. He had threatened arrest for minor things or for nothing at all. None of them had the resources to fight back legally, so they just filed complaints and hoped something would happen. Nothing did. But now, with Maya's case bringing attention, they were willing to come forward again. They would testify. They would be witnesses. Together, their stories created a clear pattern of racial profiling and abuse of power. Maya also obtained Hansen's complete personnel file through a legal request. It made for disturbing reading. Beyond the 3 recent complaints, there were older ones too. Complaints about excessive use of force. Complaints about aggressive behavior. Complaints about racist language. Some were sustained, meaning internal affairs found them credible. But Hansen had never faced serious discipline. A few days suspension here and there. A written reprimand. Nothing that actually changed his behavior. The department had known for years that Hansen was a problem. They had documentation of it, but they had done nothing meaningful to stop him. That made them liable too. They had failed to properly train and supervise an officer they knew had issues. Patricia worked with Maya to draft the federal lawsuit. It was filed under Section 1983 of the Civil Rights Act, which allows people to sue government officials who violate their constitutional rights. The lawsuit named Hansen as a defendant for false arrest, illegal search, excessive force, and racial discrimination. It also named the police department and the city for failure to train and supervise, and for maintaining policies that allowed racial profiling to continue. The lawsuit asked for compensatory damages for the harm Maya suffered. It also asked for punitive damages to punish the defendants and deter future misconduct. But most importantly, it asked for injunctive relief. That meant court-ordered changes to police policies and procedures, mandatory training on racial bias, a real civilian oversight board with power to investigate and discipline officers, body cameras that couldn't be turned off or malfunction at convenient times. Maya wanted money, yes, but more than that, she wanted change. She wanted to make sure this didn't happen to other people. She wanted the system to be better. The tension on Maple Street grew thicker by the second. Maya stood beside her Mercedes with her coffee in one hand and her purse in the other. Officer Hansen stared at her with anger building in his eyes. Officer Chen stood slightly behind him, looking uncomfortable with the whole situation. Hansen was not used to people questioning him. In his 12 years as a police officer, most people did what he told them to do. They showed their identification when he asked. They answered his questions. They didn't talk about amendments and rights. This woman was different, and it bothered him more than he wanted to admit. "Ma'am, you're being uncooperative," Hansen said, his voice rising slightly. "That's making me more suspicious." Maya kept her voice calm and steady. "Officer, I'm not being uncooperative. I'm exercising my constitutional rights. There's a difference. Now, can you please tell me what specific facts make you suspect this vehicle is stolen? Hansen looked at the Mercedes again. He knew he had made a mistake saying it matched a stolen vehicle. The stolen car report was for a completely different car. But he couldn't back down now. That would make him look weak. It matches the general description, he said. What's the general description? Maya asked. She knew she was pushing, but she also knew her rights. If Hansen had no real reason to stop her, then this was an illegal detention. Black luxury sedan, Hansen said quickly. Maya looked at her car. Officer, my car is silver, not black. And what was the make and model of the stolen vehicle? Hansen's jaw tightened. Officer Chen spoke up for the first time. Sir, the stolen vehicle report from last week was for a black BMW 3 Series. This is a silver Mercedes. Hansen shot Chen a look that told her to be quiet. But the damage was done. Maya heard it. So did the people who were now openly watching and recording on their phones. A small crowd was forming on the sidewalk. About 6 or 7 people stood there, holding up their phones, capturing everything. Maya carefully reached into her purse. Hansen immediately tensed up and put his hand on his weapon. Keep your hands where I can see them, he shouted. I'm reaching for my phone, officer. Maya said slowly. I'm going to record this encounter, that's my legal right. She pulled out her phone slowly, making sure Hansen could see every movement. She opened her camera app and started recording. She held the phone at chest level, pointing it at Hansen. You don't need to record this, Hansen said. Yes, I do, Maya replied. For my protection and yours. Hansen hated being recorded. All cops did. The cameras made everything complicated. People always thought the worst about police these days. They didn't understand how hard the job was. They didn't understand that sometimes you had to trust your gut feelings. And his gut told him this woman was trouble. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to put that phone away and show me your identification right now, Hansen demanded. I respectfully decline, Maya said. You haven't given me a legal reason for demanding my identification. You admitted my car doesn't actually match the description of the stolen vehicle. So what's the real reason you stopped me? The question hung in the air. Everyone watching knew the answer, even if no one said it out loud. Maya was black. Her car was expensive. She was in a wealthy white neighborhood. That was the reason. But Hansen would never admit it. I don't like your attitude, Hansen said. You're being hostile and uncooperative. That gives me reasonable suspicion. Not liking someone's attitude isn't reasonable suspicion of a crime, officer, Maya said. Her law school training was kicking in fully now. Reasonable suspicion requires specific, articulable facts that suggest criminal activity. Being polite but firm about my rights isn't criminal activity. Officer Chen shifted her weight from one foot to the other. She had only been on the force for 3 years. She had partnered with Hansen a few times before. He was always aggressive with people, especially black and Hispanic people. She had noticed it but never said anything. Speaking up against senior officers was a good way to get frozen out of the department. But this situation felt different. This woman clearly knew the law. She wasn't backing down. And all these people were recording. If this went bad, it would be all over the news. Chen didn't want to be part of that. Sir, Chen said quietly to Hansen, maybe we should just verify the vehicle registration through dispatch and... I've got this, Chen. Hansen cut her off. He turned back to Maya. Last chance. Show me your ID or I'm going to arrest you for obstruction. Maya's heart was beating fast, but she kept her face calm. She had seen this tactic before. Threaten arrest to scare people into compliance. But she also knew that obstruction required actually interfering with police duties. Standing still and asking questions wasn't obstruction. Officer, what am I obstructing? I'm standing here peacefully. I haven't interfered with you in any way. I've simply asked you to explain the legal basis for your demands. That's not obstruction. An older white man in the crowd spoke up. She's right, officer. She hasn't done anything wrong. I've been watching the whole thing. Hansen spun around to face the crowd. Everyone needs to back up and mind their own business. But the crowd didn't move. They kept recording. Some of them were going live on social media. The video was being watched by hundreds of people in real time. Comments were flooding in. Most of them were supportive of Maya. Maya saw what was happening and felt a small sense of relief. Evidence was being created. Multiple angles, multiple witnesses. If Hansen did something wrong, it would be documented. But she also knew that sometimes documentation wasn't enough. People had video of police misconduct all the time and officers still weren't held accountable. Hansen was feeling cornered. He had a woman who wouldn't obey him, a crowd that was hostile, and a partner who seemed to be questioning him. His face was now completely red. Sweat was forming on his forehead even though the morning was cool. "Turn around and put your hands on the vehicle," Hansen ordered. Maya's stomach dropped. This was escalating. "Am I under arrest?" "You will be if you don't comply right now." "On what charge?" "Obstruction of justice and resisting arrest." Maya almost laughed at the absurdity. "How can I be arrested for resisting arrest? That doesn't make logical sense. You have to be arresting me for something else first before I can resist." But logic didn't matter to Hansen anymore. He was angry and embarrassed, and he wanted control of the situation. He stepped forward and grabbed Maya's arm roughly. Her coffee spilled, splashing on the ground and on her suit. The hot liquid burned her hand slightly, but she bit back the pain. "Hey, that's assault," someone in the crowd yelled. Someone. Maya kept her voice steady even though her heart was pounding. "Officer, you are using excessive force. I am not resisting. Everyone here is witnessing this." Hansen pulled her toward the car and pushed her against it. The metal was cold against her chest. He grabbed her phone from her hand and set it on the roof of the car, still recording. Then he started patting her down aggressively. "Do you have my consent to search me?" Maya asked loudly, making sure it was clear on all the recordings. "I don't need your consent," Hansen said. "Actually, you do unless you're arresting me or you have probable cause to believe I'm armed and dangerous." "What's your probable cause, officer?" Hansen didn't answer. He continued searching her anyway. He found nothing except her wallet, her keys, and some papers from work. Officer Chen stood by, watching. She looked miserable. She knew this was wrong, but she didn't know how to stop it without ending her own career. Hansen pulled Maya's arms behind her back. She heard the click of handcuffs closing around her wrists. The metal was tight and cold. Maya had represented many clients who described this feeling. Now she understood it personally. It was humiliating and frightening, even when you knew you hadn't done anything wrong. "You're under arrest for obstruction of justice and resisting arrest," Hansen said officially. "I want your name and badge number," Maya said. "And I want the name and badge number of every officer on scene." "You'll get all that at the station," Hansen said. He turned to the crowd. "Show's over, move along." But the crowd didn't move. The older white man who had spoken up before stepped closer. "I'm a retired attorney. What you're doing is illegal. This woman has done nothing wrong." "Sir, step back or you'll be arrested too," Hansen warned. The man didn't step back, but he didn't get any closer either. "I'm a witness. I'm staying right here." Officer Chen finally spoke up again. "Sir, I can take it from here. I'll transport her to the station." Hansen looked at Chen with irritation. "I said I've got this." "I know, but I can handle the transport. You should stay here and secure the vehicle." It was a weak excuse, but Chen was trying to separate Maya from Hansen. She could see that Hansen was out of control. Hansen considered this. Having Chen take Maya would get the crowd off his back. "Fine. You take her. I'll have the car impounded." "Is that necessary?" Chen asked. "If she's the owner." "The vehicle needs to be impounded pending investigation," Hansen said firmly. Maya spoke up. "Officer Chen, my registration is in the glove box. It will show that I'm the legal owner of this vehicle. There's no legal basis to impound it." Chen looked at Hansen, then at Maya, then at the crowd with all their cameras. "I'll check the registration," she said. Hansen grabbed Maya by the arm and guided her toward Chen's patrol car. Maya went without resisting, but she kept talking. "I do not consent to this arrest. I have not broken any laws. I am not resisting. I am invoking my right to remain silent and my right to an attorney. You can call your lawyer from the station, Hansen said. Chen opened the back door of her patrol car. Maya ducked her head and sat down in the back seat. The door closed with a heavy sound. She was locked in now. The back of police cars don't have door handles on the inside. You can't get out until someone lets you out. Through the window, Maya could see Hansen going back to her Mercedes. He was searching through it, looking in the glove box, under the seats, in the trunk. Officer Chen stood with her hand on the roof of the patrol car watching. "Are you okay?" Chen asked quietly. "No," Maya said honestly. "But I will be. This isn't my first experience with police overreach. It's just the first time it's happened to me personally." Chen looked surprised. "What do you do for work?" "I'm a civil rights attorney. I represent people in cases of police misconduct." Chen's eyes widened. She looked back at Hansen, who was still searching the Mercedes. "Oh no," she whispered. "Oh yes," Maya said. "Your partner just made a very expensive mistake, and it's all on video from multiple angles." Maya sat on the cold bench in the holding cell. She checked her watch. It had been about 30 minutes since Rodriguez put her in here. Time moved slowly in jail. Even though she knew she would be released soon, the waiting was hard. She understood now why innocent people sometimes confessed to crimes they didn't commit. The pressure of being locked up was intense. She could hear voices from down the hallway. Someone was arguing. She recognized one of the voices. It was Hansen. He sounded defensive and angry. "I did everything by the book." Hansen's voice echoed through the hall. She was suspicious. She refused to cooperate. "I had probable cause." "You had a feeling, Hansen. That's not the same as probable cause." That was Rodriguez's voice. He sounded tired and frustrated. "And now we have a civil rights attorney sitting in our holding cell who was arrested for asking questions. Do you understand how bad this looks?" "She was being hostile and aggressive," Hansen argued. "I watched the videos, Hansen. Multiple videos from multiple angles. She wasn't aggressive. She was calm and polite. You were the one who got aggressive. You grabbed her. You searched her without consent. You arrested her without legal cause. I'm a 12-year veteran of this force. I know how to do my job." "Then why does this keep happening?" Rodriguez asked. "This is the third complaint against you this year. The third one. Hansen." There was silence for a moment. Maya listened carefully. 3 complaints in 1 year. That was significant. It showed a pattern of behavior. "Those complaints were all dropped," Hansen finally said. "Because the people were scared. Because they didn't have money for lawyers. Because they didn't think anyone would believe them over a police officer. But this time is different, Hansen. This woman is an attorney. She knows the system. And it's all on video." "So what are you saying?" Hansen asked. "I'm saying you need to go home for the day. I'm putting you on administrative duty pending an investigation." "You're suspending me? Over this? I'm protecting you in this department. If I don't take action, this will become a media circus. It already is becoming one. There are reporters outside right now. The mayor's office has already called twice." Maya heard footsteps walking away. One person going in one direction, another person going in another direction. Then Rodriguez appeared in front of her cell. He unlocked the door and swung it open. "Ms. Thompson, you're free to go. All charges are being dropped." Maya stood up and walked out of the cell. "What changed your mind, Sergeant?" "I reviewed all the evidence. The body camera footage from Officer Chen, the videos posted online. Your arrest was not legally justified. I'm sorry this happened to you." "Are you sorry enough to hold Officer Hansen accountable?" Rodriguez looked uncomfortable. "That's not my decision to make, but I've filed a report with Internal Affairs. They'll investigate." "And how many times has Officer Hansen been investigated by Internal Affairs?" Maya asked. "I can't discuss another officer's personnel record with you. You already mentioned he has 3 complaints this year. That's discussing his record." Rodriguez sighed. "Look, Ms. Thompson, I'm trying to do the right thing here. I'm releasing you. I'm making sure this gets investigated. That's all I can do." Maya understood. Rodriguez was one person in a large system. He could only do so much, but she appreciated that he was at least trying. Many officers would have supported Hansen no matter what. I appreciate you reviewing the evidence fairly, Sergeant. Not all officers would have done that. Rodriguez nodded. Come on, let's get you out of here. He led her back through the station. They had to go through several doors, each one requiring a key card or a code. The security was tight. Maya made note of it all. She was still in attorney mode, still gathering information. They reached the front desk where her personal items had been stored. A young officer handed her a manila envelope containing her phone, her wallet, her keys, and her jewelry. She had forgotten they had taken her watch and earrings during processing. Maya put everything back on. She checked her phone. 27 missed calls, 15 text messages. Her phone had been buzzing non-stop while it was locked away. Most of the calls were from her husband, David. Several were from her law office. A few were from numbers she didn't recognize, probably reporters. What about my car? Maya asked. Rodriguez looked pained. It's been towed to the impound lot. You can pick it up there. I have to pay to get my own car out of impound after being falsely arrested? I'm working on getting the fees waived, but the paperwork takes time. Maya felt her anger rising again, but she kept it controlled. Where's the impound lot? Rodriguez gave her the address. It was across town. Maya would need to take a taxi or call someone to pick her up. Her whole day was ruined. She had missed her court appearance. She had missed her meetings. All because Officer Hansen had a bad feeling about a black woman in a nice car. One more thing, Rodriguez said. There are reporters outside. You don't have to talk to them if you don't want to. Oh, I want to talk to them, Maya said. Rodriguez looked worried. Maybe you should talk to a lawyer first. Sergeant, I am a lawyer and I know exactly what to say. Maya walked toward the front entrance of the police station. Rodriguez followed a few steps behind her, probably to make sure there wasn't any trouble. As soon as Maya pushed open the front doors, she was hit with a wall of noise. Ms. Thompson, can you tell us what happened? Were you really arrested for no reason? How are you feeling right now? There were at least 5 reporters with cameras and microphones. They crowded around Maya on the steps of the police station. She held up her hands to quiet them down. I'll make a statement, but please let me speak without interruption, Maya said. The reporters fell silent, their cameras rolling, their microphones pointed at her. Maya took a breath. This was her moment to control the narrative. My name is Dr. Maya Thompson. I'm a civil rights attorney here in the city. This morning I stopped at a coffee shop on Maple Street. I parked legally. I went inside, bought coffee, and came back out to my car. That's when Officer Derek Hansen approached me and demanded my identification. When I asked what law I had broken, he became aggressive. He claimed my car matched a stolen vehicle, but when I asked for details, his story didn't hold up. My car is silver. The stolen vehicle was black. My car is a Mercedes. The stolen vehicle was a BMW. They don't match at all. Maya paused. The reporters were hanging on every word. This was going to be on the evening news for sure. I remained calm and respectful throughout the entire encounter. I exercised my Fourth Amendment right to ask why I was being detained. In response, Officer Hansen became more aggressive. He grabbed me roughly, searched me without consent, and arrested me for obstruction of justice and resisting arrest. But I didn't obstruct anything. I didn't resist anything. I simply asked questions, which is my constitutional right. How long were you held? One reporter asked. About 2 hours. I was handcuffed, processed, fingerprinted, photographed, and put in a holding cell. All because I asked a police officer to explain why he was stopping me. What happens now? Another reporter asked. Now I do what I do for all my clients. I fight back. I will be filing a federal civil rights lawsuit against Officer Hansen and the police department. I will also be filing formal complaints with Internal Affairs and the Civilian Oversight Board. What happened to me today happens to black people and other people of color every single day in this country. But many of them don't have the resources or knowledge to fight back. I do. And I will use my position to demand accountability and change. Do you think you were profiled because of your race? A reporter asked. Maya looked directly into the camera. I'm a professional woman in business attire driving a car I legally own. The only reason Officer Hansen found me suspicious was the color of my skin. Yes, I was racially profiled. And yes, I was falsely arrested. And yes, I will make sure everyone knows about it. What do you want people to take away from this? Another reporter asked. I want people to understand that this is not rare. This happens constantly. The only difference is that I was recorded by multiple witnesses. I have education and resources. Most victims of police misconduct don't. They suffer in silence because they're afraid or they don't know how to fight back. But every time this happens, we all need to speak up. We need to demand better training for police. We need to demand accountability when officers abuse their power. We need to demand change. Have you spoken to Officer Hansen since your release? A reporter asked. No, and I don't plan to. My attorney will handle all communication from now on. Maya paused. Wait, I am my attorney. My law office will handle all communication from now on. A few of the reporters smiled at that. Maya was showing that she could maintain her composure and even her sense of humor despite what had happened. It made her more relatable, more human. One last question, a reporter said. What would you say to Officer Hansen if he were here right now? Maya thought about this carefully. She could say something angry. She could say something harsh. But that wouldn't help her case. She needed to stay professional and focused. I would tell him that his actions today have consequences, not just for me, but for the entire community. Every time a police officer abuses their power, it breaks down trust between law enforcement and the people they're supposed to serve. I would tell him that he needs to examine his own biases and prejudices, and I would tell him that I will not rest until he is held accountable for what he did today. With that, Maya ended her statement. She thanked the reporters and walked down the steps. She needed to get to the impound lot to get her car. She needed to call David and reassure him that she was okay. She needed to talk to Zoe and explain what happened in terms an 8-year-old could understand. But first, she needed a moment to process everything. She walked a block away from the police station and found a quiet spot on a bench. She sat down and finally let herself feel the weight of what had happened. Her hands were shaking slightly. Her heart was still beating fast. She had been in control the whole time, but it had taken a lot of energy. Maya pulled out her phone and called David. He answered immediately. Maya, thank God. James called me. Are you okay? I'm okay. I'm out. The charges were dropped. Where are you? I'll come get you right now. I'm near the station, but I need to get my car from the impound lot. I'll take you there. Just tell me where you are exactly. Maya gave him her location. While she waited for David, she scrolled through the messages on her phone. James had sent her several updates. He had already filed the formal complaints. He had already requested the body camera footage. He had already started researching Officer Hansen's background. And he had found something interesting. Officer Derek Hansen had been sued once before, 5 years ago. A Hispanic man claimed Hansen had used excessive force during a traffic stop. The case was settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. The details were sealed, but the fact that there was a settlement suggested the man had a strong case. This was important information. It showed that Hansen had a history of this behavior. It wasn't just a one-time mistake. It was a pattern. And patterns were powerful evidence in civil rights cases. David's car pulled up about 10 minutes later. He jumped out and hugged Maya tightly. I was so worried, he said. I know, I'm sorry. But I'm okay, really. They got in the car and David drove toward the impound lot. As they drove, Maya told him everything that had happened, every detail. David listened with growing anger. That's insane. He arrested you for nothing. For literally nothing, David said. I know, but at least it's documented. We have video from multiple angles. We have witnesses. We have Officer Chen's body camera footage. The case is strong. Are you really going to sue? Absolutely. This can't go unpunished, David. If I don't fight back, Hansen will do this to someone else. Maybe someone who doesn't have the resources I have. Maybe someone who gets hurt. David nodded. He understood. He had been married to Maya long enough to know that she didn't back down from fights, especially fights that mattered. They arrived at the impound lot. It was a large fenced area filled with cars in various states. Some looked abandoned. Some looked like they had been in accidents. Maya's Mercedes sat near the front, looking completely out of place among the damaged vehicles. Inside the office, Maya had to fill out paperwork and show her registration and identification. The clerk barely looked at her. This was just another day of processing impounded vehicles for him. But for Maya, every moment of this process was another indignity, another violation. The lawsuit was filed on a Thursday morning. Maya and Patricia held a press conference on the courthouse steps right after filing. News cameras surrounded them. Reporters shouted questions. Maya stood at the microphone with Patricia beside her, holding copies of the lawsuit. Today we filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against Officer Derek Hansen, the police department, and the city, Maya announced. This lawsuit seeks justice not just for me, but for every person who has been profiled, harassed, or abused by police who face no consequences for their actions. She went on to explain the details of the case. The false arrest. The illegal search. Hansen's history of complaints. The department's failure to properly discipline him. Every word was carefully chosen. Maya knew this press conference would be seen by thousands of people, including the jury pool for her eventual trial. This is about accountability, Maya continued. When police officers abuse their power, they must face consequences. When departments fail to properly train and supervise their officers, they must face consequences. The system only changes when we force it to change. Reporters asked questions. Most of them were supportive. A few tried to play devil's advocate, asking if maybe Maya had misunderstood Hansen's intentions, or if maybe she had been difficult in ways the video didn't show. Patricia fielded those questions smoothly. The video evidence is clear. Multiple videos from multiple angles show that Dr. Thompson was calm, respectful, and within her rights. Officer Hansen was aggressive from the start. He had no legal justification for stopping her, searching her, or arresting her. The facts are not in dispute. After the press conference, Maya and Patricia went back to the office. They had work to do. The city would respond to the lawsuit within 30 days. They would probably file a motion to dismiss, arguing that the lawsuit had no legal merit. Maya and Patricia needed to be ready to fight that motion. James had set up a war room in one of the conference rooms. One wall was covered with a timeline of events from the day of the arrest. Another wall had photos of all the key players: Hansen, Chen, Rodriguez, the witnesses. A third wall had printouts of relevant laws and court cases. "This is impressive," Patricia said, looking around the room. "We treat every case like it's the most important case in the world," Maya said, "because for our clients, it is." They spent the rest of the day reviewing evidence and planning strategy. They discussed which expert witnesses to hire. They needed an expert on police procedures who could testify that Hansen violated standard practices. They needed an expert on implicit bias who could explain how racial stereotypes influence police behavior. They needed a damages expert who could calculate the financial and emotional harm Maya suffered. By the end of the day, Maya was exhausted. But it was a good kind of exhaustion. She was doing something. She was fighting back. She wasn't just a victim anymore. She was an advocate for herself and for others. At home that evening, Maya finally sat down with Zoe to explain what had happened. David was there too for support. They had decided Zoe was old enough to know the truth, at least a version of it. "Baby, I need to talk to you about something important," Maya started. "Remember how Grandma picked you up from school last week? That was because Mommy had a problem with a police officer." Zoe's eyes got wide. "Did you get in trouble?" "No, baby, I didn't do anything wrong. But a police officer thought I did something wrong even though I didn't. So he arrested me." "Arrested you? Like on TV, with handcuffs?" "Yes, with handcuffs. But it was a mistake. The police officer made a bad decision. And now Mommy is making sure he learns from that mistake so he doesn't do it to other people." "Was it because you're black?" Zoe asked. The question surprised Maya. Zoe was only 8, but she was smart. She had already learned about race and inequality at school. They had talked about it before, in age-appropriate ways. "Yes, baby. I think it was partly because I'm black. The police officer saw a black woman in a nice car and made assumptions. He thought I must be doing something wrong even though I wasn't. That's not fair, Zoe said, her voice getting emotional. No, it's not fair, but Mommy is a lawyer. I help people when unfair things happen to them, and now I'm helping myself. I'm going to make sure that police officer can't do this to anyone else. Will you win? Maya smiled. I'm going to try my hardest to win, and even if it takes a long time, I won't give up. Zoe hugged her mother tightly. You're the best lawyer in the world, Mommy. You'll win. Maya held her daughter and felt tears prick her eyes. This was why she did this work. For Zoe. For Zoe's future. So that maybe by the time Zoe was an adult, things would be better. Maybe police wouldn't automatically see black people as suspicious. Maybe the system would be more fair. Maybe justice would be real, not just a word. The next few weeks were intense. The city's lawyers filed their response to the lawsuit just as expected. They argued that Hansen had acted in good faith based on his training and experience. They argued that Maya's arrest was lawful because Hansen had reasonable suspicion. They argued that the lawsuit should be dismissed. Patricia filed a strong response. She included still frames from the videos showing Maya's calm demeanor and Hansen's aggressive posture. She included statements from witnesses. She included Hansen's disciplinary record. She included the 3 other complaints from people Hansen had harassed. The judge would decide whether the case could move forward or would be dismissed. This was a critical moment. If the judge dismissed the case, it would be over. Maya would have no recourse. Hansen would face no consequences. But if the judge let the case proceed, then they would move toward either a settlement or a trial. While they waited for the judge's decision, the story continued to spread. National news outlets picked it up. Civil rights organizations reached out to offer support. Maya did several interviews, always staying on message. This was about accountability and change. But there was also backlash. The police union held a press conference defending Hansen. They claimed he was a dedicated officer who had served the community for 12 years. They said the video had been edited to make him look bad. They said Maya was using her position as an attorney to attack a good cop. None of it was true. The videos weren't edited. They were raw footage from multiple sources. Hansen wasn't a good cop. His record proved that. But the union's job was to protect their members. Facts be damned. Some people believed the union. Maya started getting hate mail and angry messages on social media. People called her a liar. People said she was making it up for attention. People said worse things, racist things, threatening things. Maya had to make her social media accounts private and increase security at her house. This is what always happens, Patricia said during one of their strategy meetings. They can't attack the facts, so they attack you personally. They try to discredit you, make you look bad, make people doubt you, I know, Maya said. I've seen it happen to my clients. But it's different when you're the one being attacked. Do you want to back down? We could probably negotiate a quiet settlement right now. You'd get some money, sign a non-disclosure agreement, and move on with your life. Maya shook her head firmly. No, that's what they want. They want this to go away quietly. But I'm not going to let that happen. This case is going forward, no matter how much hate I get. 2 months after filing the lawsuit, the judge issued his decision. Maya was in her office when Patricia called with the news. We won the motion to dismiss, Patricia said, and Maya could hear the smile in her voice. The judge ruled that your claims have merit and the case will proceed to trial. Maya felt a wave of relief wash over her. This was a huge victory. The judge had looked at all the evidence and decided that yes, Hansen had violated Maya's rights. Yes, the department had failed in its duties. Yes, this case deserved to be heard by a jury. What did the judge say? Maya asked. Let me read you the key part, Patricia said. Maya heard papers rustling. Here it is. Viewing the evidence in the light most favorable to the plaintiff, a reasonable jury could conclude that Officer Hansen lacked reasonable suspicion to stop Dr. Thompson, lacked probable cause to search her or arrest her, and that his actions were motivated at least in part by racial bias. Furthermore, a reasonable jury could conclude that the department's failure to properly discipline Officer Hansen despite multiple credible complaints constitutes deliberate indifference to constitutional violations. That's a strong statement from the judge, Maya. That's huge, Maya said. He basically laid out our entire case and said it has merit. Exactly. This puts enormous pressure on the city to settle. They know if this goes to trial, they're going to lose. The question is how much they're willing to pay to make it go away. Sure enough, within a week, the city's lawyers reached out to discuss settlement. They wanted to meet informally to see if there was a way to resolve the case without a trial. Maya and Patricia met with the city's legal team in a neutral conference room at a downtown office building. The city sent 3 lawyers, including their lead counsel, a sharp-looking woman named Sarah Mitchell. They all shook hands politely, but there was tension in the air. They were adversaries, after all. Let's be frank, Sarah said once everyone was seated. We think this case could go either way at trial, but trials are expensive and time-consuming for everyone. We'd like to explore whether there's a number that would make Dr. Thompson happy. This isn't about a number, Maya said. It's about change. Sarah nodded like she expected this. We understand you want policy changes. We're willing to discuss that, but we need to know what specifically you're looking for. Maya pulled out a document she and Patricia had prepared. It outlined their demands: mandatory implicit bias training for all officers, body cameras that couldn't be turned off, a real civilian oversight board with subpoena power and the authority to discipline officers, and a tracking system for complaints so officers like Hansen couldn't keep skating by with no consequences. Sarah read through the list. Her face showed nothing. When she finished, she looked up at Maya. Some of this is doable, some of it isn't. The union would never agree to giving civilians the power to discipline officers. Then we go to trial, Maya said simply. Let's not be hasty, Sarah said. We're willing to compromise. Maybe we can do the training. Maybe we can improve the complaint tracking system. Maybe we can add some civilian members to the oversight board, though they wouldn't have final authority. That's not good enough, Patricia said. Half measures don't create real change. They just give the appearance of change while allowing the same problems to continue. The negotiation went on for 2 hours. The city wanted to give as little as possible. Maya and Patricia wanted meaningful reform. They were far apart. Finally, Sarah said, let's talk money. If we can't agree on the policy changes right now, maybe we can agree on compensation. What's your number? Maya and Patricia had discussed this. $2 million, Patricia said. $750,000 in compensatory damages for the harm done to Dr. Thompson. $1.25 million in punitive damages to punish the defendants and deter future misconduct. Sarah almost laughed. $2 million? For a 2-hour detention? That's outrageous. Is it? Maya said. How much is my reputation worth? How much is my sense of safety worth? How much is the trauma of being handcuffed and caged worth? How much is it worth to send a message that this behavior won't be tolerated? We were thinking more like 50,000, Sarah said. Now it was Patricia's turn to laugh. 50,000? That's insulting. That's what you'd pay for a fender bender. This is a violation of constitutional rights by a police officer with a documented history of abuse. They were at an impasse. The meeting ended with both sides agreeing to think about their positions and meet again in 2 weeks. After the first settlement meeting went nowhere, Maya knew they needed to apply more pressure. The city was trying to lowball her, hoping she'd take a small payout and disappear. But Maya had no intention of disappearing. She started reaching out to other victims of police misconduct in the city. Through her research and James's digging, they had identified more than 20 people who had been mistreated by various officers in the past 5 years. Most had never filed formal complaints. Many didn't know they could. Some had tried but got nowhere. Maya organized a community meeting at a local church. She invited all of these victims to come share their stories. About 15 people showed up. They were Black, Hispanic, Asian, and white. They were young and old. They were from different neighborhoods and different backgrounds. But they all had one thing in common. They had been harmed by police who faced no consequences. Maya stood at the front of the church hall and addressed the group. Thank you all for coming. I know many of you don't know me personally, but you've probably seen me in the news. I'm Maya Thompson, and I'm a civil rights attorney. About 2 months ago, I was falsely arrested by Officer Derek Hansen. I'm now suing him and the police department. People nodded. They had seen the story. Some had even been at the coffee shop that day and recorded video. But I'm not here tonight to talk about my case, Maya continued. I'm here to talk about your cases. Because what happened to me happens to people in this city every single day, and most of the time, nothing is done about it. I want to change that. She explained her plan. She wanted to file a class action lawsuit on behalf of everyone who had been mistreated by the police department. A class action would be more powerful than individual lawsuits. It would show a pattern of misconduct. It would be harder for the department to dismiss or ignore. I can't promise we'll win, Maya said honestly. These cases are always difficult. The system protects police officers. But I can promise that I'll fight as hard for you as I'm fighting for myself. And together, our voices are stronger than they would be alone. One by one, people shared their stories. A young black man who had been stopped 11 times in 1 year while walking in his own neighborhood. An elderly Hispanic woman who had been roughed up by police when she didn't speak English well enough to understand their commands quickly. A white teenager who had been arrested at a protest and held for hours without being charged. Each story was different, but the theme was the same. Police had abused their power. People had been harmed. Nothing had been done about it. Maya took notes on everything. She would need to investigate each case thoroughly before deciding which ones to include in the class action. But just hearing these stories reinforced why this work was so important. After the meeting, several people approached Maya privately. They thanked her for believing them. They said no one had ever taken their complaints seriously before. One woman, who was probably in her 60s, gripped Maya's hand tightly. My son was killed by police 3 years ago, the woman said, tears in her eyes. They said he had a weapon. He didn't. He was holding his phone. They never apologized. They never even admitted they made a mistake. Maya felt her heart break. I'm so sorry for your loss. Can you help me? Can you help my son? I can try, Maya said. Tell me your name and contact information. We'll investigate what happened. The woman's name was Margaret Williams. Her son Kenneth had been 23 years old when he was shot by police during a traffic stop. The official report said he reached for something in his waistband, and officers felt threatened. But witnesses said Kenneth had his hands up. No weapon was ever found. The officers were cleared of wrongdoing by internal affairs. This case was more serious than the others. It involved a death. The stakes were higher. The emotions were rawer. But Maya felt compelled to help. If she didn't, who would? Over the next few weeks, Maya and her team investigated dozens of cases. They sorted through police reports, interviewed witnesses, reviewed any available video footage. Some cases had strong evidence. Others were harder to prove. But patterns emerged. Certain officers came up repeatedly. Certain neighborhoods were targeted more than others. Certain types of people, mostly people of color and poor people, were mistreated far more often than others. Maya compiled all of this into a comprehensive report. It was over 100 pages long with charts and graphs showing the patterns. She sent copies to the mayor's office, the city council, and the media. She wanted everyone to see what was really happening in their city. The report caused an uproar. The mayor called for an independent investigation. The police chief held a press conference denying the allegations. Community activists organized protests. The city was forced to pay attention to an issue it had been ignoring for years. Meanwhile, the settlement negotiations with the city continued. The second meeting was more productive than the first. The city was feeling the pressure from the report and the growing public outcry. They increased their settlement offer to $200,000. Still not enough, Patricia said, and we still need the policy changes. We're willing to agree to better training, Sarah said, and we'll establish a database to track complaints. But we can't give civilians the power to discipline officers. The union would sue us. Let them sue, Maya said. Civil rights are more important than union contracts. That's easy for you to say. You don't have to run a city. No, but I have to live in one. And I want to live in a city where police are held accountable. They went back and forth. The city came up to $400,000. Then $500,000. But they still wouldn't budge on the major policy reforms. They would agree to training and tracking, but not to real civilian oversight. Maya was getting frustrated. We're wasting time here. You're not serious about change. You just want to throw money at the problem and hope it goes away. Dr. Thompson, we're trying to find a middle ground, Sarah said. There is no middle ground between justice and injustice. Either you hold officers accountable or you don't. Either you protect civil rights or you don't. The meeting ended with no agreement. As they walked out, Patricia said, "They're going to keep stalling. They think eventually you'll get tired and take whatever they offer." "Then they don't know me very well," Maya said. News of the stalled negotiations leaked to the press. Reporters asked Maya if she was willing to walk away from hundreds of thousands of dollars just for principle. Some people criticized her, saying she was being greedy or unreasonable, but others praised her for standing firm. One of her supporters was Officer Lisa Chen. Chen had been feeling guilty about her role in Maya's arrest ever since it happened. She had stood by and let Hansen do something wrong. She had been afraid to speak up. But watching Maya fight so hard for justice inspired her. Chen reached out to Maya through an intermediary. She wanted to testify about the culture in the police department. She wanted to explain how officers were pressured to support each other, even when they knew something was wrong. She wanted to tell the truth about how complaints were routinely dismissed and problem officers were protected. This was huge. Having a current officer testify against the department was incredibly rare. Officers who did that usually faced retaliation. They were ostracized by their colleagues. Their careers were effectively over. But Chen said she was willing to take that risk. Maya met with Chen privately. They sat in a quiet coffee shop, ironically the same coffee shop where Maya had been arrested. Chen looked nervous, but determined. "I've been thinking about quitting," Chen said. "I became a cop because I wanted to help people. But the department doesn't want officers who help people. They want officers who follow orders and protect each other." "Your testimony could make a real difference," Maya said. "But I need you to understand what you're risking. The department will come after you. So will the union. Your fellow officers will see you as a traitor. I know, but I can't stay silent anymore. What Hansen did to you was wrong. And the department knows it was wrong, but they're protecting him anyway. That's not the kind of cop I want to be." Maya felt deep respect for Chen. It took real courage to do what she was doing. "Thank you. Your testimony will be powerful." With Chen's agreement to testify, the case got even stronger. The city's lawyers knew it too. A week after Chen agreed to cooperate, Sarah called Patricia to request an emergency settlement meeting. This time, the city came with a much better offer. $750,000 in damages, plus agreement to mandatory implicit bias training for all officers, plus a new early warning system that would flag officers with multiple complaints for additional supervision, plus addition of more civilian members to the oversight board, though still without final disciplinary authority. It was better than before, but still not everything Maya wanted. She discussed it with Patricia. "What do you think?" "I think it's a significant improvement," Patricia said. "The training and early warning system will help. More civilians on the oversight board is good, even if they don't have final authority yet. And $750,000 is substantial compensation. But they still won't give real disciplinary power to civilians," Maya said. "No, and they probably never will through settlement. If you want that, we'd have to win at trial and get a court order." Maya thought about this. A trial would take at least another year, maybe longer. It would be exhausting and stressful. There was always risk with trials. Juries were unpredictable. Even with strong evidence, there was no guarantee of victory. But if she settled now, she'd be giving up on one of her main goals. Real civilian oversight was crucial to creating lasting change. Without it, police would continue to police themselves, and the problems would continue. "Let's counteroffer," Maya said. "I'll accept the $750,000 and the training and early warning system. But I want the civilian board members to have the authority to investigate complaints and make recommendations for discipline. The final decision can stay with the police chief, but the civilians need to have a real voice in the process." Patricia nodded. "That's a reasonable compromise. It gives the city cover with the union because the chief still makes the final call. But it gives civilians more power than they have now. They presented this counteroffer to the city. Sarah said she needed to discuss it with the mayor and the police chief. 2 days later, she called back. "We have a deal." Maya felt a mix of emotions. Relief that the case was finally over. Satisfaction that she had achieved meaningful reforms. But also disappointment that she hadn't gotten everything she wanted. Change was slow and incremental. She had pushed the system as far as it would go right now. Maybe in the future, someone else would push it further. The settlement was announced at a press conference. Maya stood with Patricia and several of the other victims who had come forward. The mayor was there too, trying to take credit for being open to reform. "Today represents an important step forward for our city," the mayor said. "We're committed to ensuring that all our residents are treated fairly and with respect by law enforcement." Maya wanted to roll her eyes at the political speak, but she kept her face neutral. When it was her turn to speak, she was more honest. "This settlement is a start, but it's only a start. Real change will take years of sustained effort. The training has to be meaningful, not just a box to check. The early warning system has to actually result in action when problem officers are identified. The civilian board members have to be empowered to do their jobs without interference. I'll be watching closely to make sure these promises are kept." After the press conference, reporters asked about Officer Hansen. What would happen to him? "Officer Hansen has been terminated from the police department," the mayor announced. "His actions violated our policies and our values. He will also lose his police certification, meaning he cannot work as a law enforcement officer anywhere in the state." This was good news. Hansen wouldn't be able to harm anyone else as a police officer. But Maya wondered if he'd learned anything from this experience, or if he just blamed her for ruining his career. Maya Thompson woke up at 6 in the morning, just like she did every weekday. The sun was barely coming up outside her bedroom window. She stretched and got out of bed quietly. Her husband was still sleeping. Maya walked to the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror. She was 34 years old with dark brown skin and natural curly hair that she wore in a neat bun for work. She took a quick shower and got dressed. Maya chose a navy blue suit with a white blouse. She always dressed professionally for work. She was a lawyer, and not just any lawyer. Maya was a civil rights attorney. She helped people who were treated unfairly because of their race or background. She had worked hard to get where she was. She went to college on a scholarship, then to law school. Now she had her own office in the city. Maya went downstairs to the kitchen. Her daughter Zoe was already awake, sitting at the table in her school uniform. Zoe was 8 years old and looked just like her mother. She had the same bright eyes and the same smile. "Good morning, baby," Maya said, kissing the top of Zoe's head. "Morning, Mom," Zoe said, eating her cereal. Maya made coffee and toast for herself. She checked her phone for messages. She had 3 meetings today and 2 court appearances. It was going to be a busy day. But Maya liked being busy. She liked helping people. Every case she won meant someone got justice. That made all the hard work worth it. Her husband David came downstairs in his work clothes. He was a teacher at the local high school. They had been married for 10 years and they were a good team. They both believed in making the world better. "Big day today?" David asked, pouring himself coffee. Maya drove through their neighborhood. They lived in a nice area with tree-lined streets and well-kept houses. It took 15 minutes to reach Zoe's school. Maya pulled up to the drop-off area. "Have a great day at school," Maya said, hugging her daughter. "You too, Mom. Win your cases," Zoe said. Maya smiled. Her daughter always said that. It made her feel good every time. She watched Zoe run into the school building with her friends. Then Maya pulled back into traffic and headed toward her office downtown. The morning traffic was heavy as usual. Maya listened to the news on the radio while she drove. There was a story about police reform in another city. There was always news about police and community relations. It was part of why Maya did the work she did. She believed everyone deserved to be treated fairly by the law. Maya's office was in a tall building downtown, but before she went there, she decided to stop for coffee. There was a small coffee shop she liked on Maple Street. It was a bit out of her way, but they made the best lattes in the city. Maya turned onto Maple Street and looked for parking. Officer Derek Hansen had been sitting in his patrol car for the last 20 minutes. He was supposed to be watching for speeders, but he was bored. He was a large man with red hair and pale skin that burned easily in the sun. He had been a police officer for 12 years. When he saw Maya's Mercedes pull up, he sat up straighter in his seat. Hansen watched Maya get out of her car. He saw her nice suit and her expensive purse. He saw the Mercedes with its shiny paint and clean wheels. Something about it bothered him. He couldn't say exactly what, but he felt like something was wrong. A black woman in a car like that in this neighborhood? It didn't fit right in his mind. Hansen picked up his radio. "This is Unit 12. I'm going to check out a suspicious vehicle on Maple Street near Morning Brew." The dispatcher's voice came back. "Copy that, Unit 12. What's suspicious about it?" Hansen looked at the Mercedes again. "Matches the description of a stolen vehicle from last week," he said. This wasn't exactly true. There had been a stolen car report, but it was for a black BMW, not a silver Mercedes. But Hansen told himself it was close enough. "Need backup?" the dispatcher asked. "Not yet. I'll call if I need it." Hansen put down the radio and continued watching. Maya had gone into the coffee shop now. Through the big windows he could see her standing in line. She was looking at her phone, checking messages probably. She looked calm and comfortable, like she belonged there. But Hansen didn't think she belonged there. In his mind, people like her didn't drive cars like that unless something illegal was going on. Maybe she was a drug dealer. Maybe the car really was stolen. Maybe she was up to something. He had a feeling, and he had learned to trust his feelings over the years. Inside the coffee shop, Maya ordered her usual latte with an extra shot of espresso. She needed the energy today. The young barista smiled at her and took her payment. While she waited for her drink, Maya checked her email. She had a message from her paralegal about a case they were working on. A young black man had been stopped by police 15 times in 6 months, always for minor things, always let go without charges. They were building a harassment case. Maya's coffee was ready. She thanked the barista and headed for the door. She was thinking about her court appearance at 10. She needed to be sharp and prepared. The case was important. A family was suing the city for wrongful termination. The father had been fired from his job after complaining about discrimination. Maya pushed open the door and stepped outside into the cool morning air. The sun was fully up now and the street was getting busy. She walked toward her car, sipping her hot coffee carefully. She used her key fob to unlock the door. Hansen approached with confident steps. He had called for backup just in case. Another unit was on the way. He looked at Maya with suspicious eyes. "Ma'am, I need to see some identification," Hansen said loudly. Maya stood still, holding her coffee. She looked at the officer calmly. Good morning, officer. Can I ask why you need to see my identification? Hansen frowned. He didn't like being questioned. Just show me your ID, ma'am. I'd like to know what law I've broken first. Maya said politely but firmly. Hansen's face got red. This was not going the way he expected. Most people just did what he told them to do. Your vehicle matches the description of a stolen car. I need to verify ownership. Maya looked at her Mercedes, then back at the officer. She knew this was likely not true, but she stayed calm. What's the description of the stolen vehicle? Hansen hesitated. He hadn't expected her to ask questions. Just show me your ID and registration. Another police car pulled up. A female officer got out. She was Asian American and looked younger than Hansen. Her name tag said Chen. Officer Chen walked over to join them. Maya stood her ground, still holding her coffee. She knew what was happening. She had represented dozens of people in situations just like this. Now it was happening to her. But she also knew something Hansen didn't know. She knew exactly how to handle this situation. She knew her rights better than most police officers. The morning sun reflected off her Mercedes. People were starting to notice the scene. Some slowed down as they walked past. A few took out their phones. Maya noticed this and felt slightly better. Witnesses were good. Evidence was good. Hansen saw the phones too. He didn't like being recorded, but he told himself he wasn't doing anything wrong. He was just checking out a suspicious vehicle. That's what good cops did. They checked things out. Ma'am, I'm not going to ask again, Hansen said, his voice harder now. Maya met his eyes steadily. Officer, I understand you have a job to do, but I also have rights. Under the Fourth Amendment, you need reasonable suspicion to demand my identification. Can you tell me what specific, articulable facts make you suspect I've committed a crime? Hansen's face got even redder. Officer Chen shifted uncomfortably beside him. She could see where this was going, and she didn't like it. The morning that started so normally for Maya was about to become something very different. But she was ready. She had spent her whole career preparing for moments like this, even though she never expected to be in one herself. Maya sat in the back of Officer Chen's patrol car, her hands cuffed behind her back. The position was uncomfortable. The metal cuffs dug into her wrists. She could see Hansen through the window, still going through her Mercedes like he expected to find something illegal. But there was nothing to find. Maya had never even gotten a speeding ticket. Chen got into the driver's seat and looked at Maya through the wire mesh that separated the front from the back. I'm sorry about this, she said quietly. Maya met her eyes. If you're really sorry, you'd uncuff me and let me go. But you won't do that, will you? Chen looked away. I can't. Hansen is my superior officer. Following orders isn't an excuse when the orders are illegal, Maya said. But I understand. You're afraid of losing your job. I've seen it happen to good cops who speak up against bad cops. Chen didn't respond. She radioed the station to say she was bringing in a suspect. Maya listened to every word of the radio conversation. She was making mental notes of everything. Times, names, procedures. All of it would matter later, when she filed her lawsuit. Outside, Hansen had finally finished searching Maya's car. He found nothing except what you'd expect to find. A gym bag with workout clothes, some files for work, an umbrella, a phone charger. Nothing illegal, nothing suspicious. Just the everyday items of a working professional. Hansen walked over to Chen's patrol car and tapped on her window. Chen rolled it down. Find anything? She asked, though she could tell from his face that he hadn't. No, but that doesn't mean she's clean. These types are smart. They know how to hide things. Hansen looked at Maya through the back window. We'll see what she has to say at the station. Sir, about the vehicle impound, Chen started. Call for a tow truck. I want that car impounded, Hansen said firmly. But sir, the registration shows she owns it. There's no legal reason. Are you questioning me, Officer Chen? Hansen's voice had an edge to it now. Chen swallowed. No, sir. I'll call for the tow truck. Hansen walked back to his patrol car. Chen made the call for the tow truck, though she felt sick doing it. She knew this was all wrong, but she also knew how the department worked. If you went against senior officers, you'd find yourself with the worst shifts, the worst assignments, and eventually you'd quit or be forced out. The crowd on the sidewalk was still there. Some people had left, but others had arrived. Word was spreading on social media. A black woman attorney arrested for no reason in front of a coffee shop. The story was already being shared hundreds of times. Local news reporters were starting to pay attention. Chen started the engine and pulled away from the curb. Maya watched through the window as her Mercedes got smaller in the distance. A tow truck was already arriving. She had worked hard for that car. Now it was being taken from her like she was a criminal. The injustice of it burned in her chest. The drive to the police station took about 15 minutes. Chen didn't try to make conversation. Maya stayed quiet too. She was thinking about everything that had happened. Every detail mattered. The time Hansen first approached her. The exact words he used. The way he grabbed her arm. The illegal search. The false arrest. All of it was building into a strong case. They arrived at the station. It was a large brick building with small windows. Chen parked in the garage and came around to open Maya's door. She helped Maya out of the car carefully. At least Chen was being gentle, Maya thought. That was something. Inside the station, the fluorescent lights were harsh and bright. The place smelled like coffee and cleaning products. Officers walked around doing their jobs. Some of them looked at Maya with curiosity. A woman in a business suit wearing handcuffs was an unusual sight. Chen led Maya to the processing area. There was a desk with another officer behind it. His name tag said Rodriguez. He was Hispanic, maybe in his 40s, with gray starting to show in his dark hair. He looked up when they approached. "What do we have?" Rodriguez asked. "Suspect arrested for obstruction of justice and resisting arrest," Chen said. She sounded like she was reading from a script. Rodriguez looked at Maya. She was well-dressed, calm, and clearly educated. This didn't fit the profile of someone who would obstruct police or resist arrest. "What happened?" he asked Chen. Chen explained the situation. As she talked, Rodriguez's expression changed. He frowned. He asked questions. "Did the vehicle actually match the stolen car description?" "Not exactly," Chen admitted. "What does not exactly mean?" "The stolen vehicle was a black BMW. Her vehicle is a silver Mercedes." Rodriguez looked at Chen with disbelief. "So it didn't match at all?" "No, sir." "And she refused to show ID?" "She asked for the legal basis first. She asked what law she had broken." Officer Hansen felt she was being uncooperative. Rodriguez rubbed his forehead like he was getting a headache. "Officer Chen, asking questions isn't illegal. Knowing your rights isn't obstruction. You know that, right?" Chen nodded miserably. "Yes, sir." Rodriguez looked at Maya. "Ma'am, what's your name?" "Dr. Maya Thompson." "Doctor? You're a physician?" "No, I have a law degree. I'm an attorney." Rodriguez closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, he looked tired. "Of course you are. What kind of law?" "Civil rights. I specialize in police misconduct cases." Rodriguez actually groaned out loud. "Officer Chen, where's Officer Hansen?" "Still at the scene, sir. He's having the vehicle impounded." "Why is he impounding her vehicle?" "He said it was pending investigation." "Investigation of what? You just told me the car doesn't match any stolen vehicle report." Rodriguez was getting angry now, but not at Maya. He was angry at Hansen for creating this mess. Maya spoke up. "Sergeant Rodriguez, I'd like to exercise my right to a phone call." "You'll get your phone call, ma'am. But first I need to finish processing this arrest, even though it's becoming very clear to me that this arrest should never have happened." He looked at Chen. "Where's the body camera footage?" Chen looked uncomfortable. Officer Hansen's camera was experiencing technical difficulties. "Of course it was," Rodriguez said sarcastically. "And yours?" "Mine was recording, sir." "Good. I want to see that footage immediately." Rodriguez turned to Maya. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to fingerprint you and take your photo. It's procedure for anyone who's been arrested. But I want you to know I'm going to review everything about this case very carefully. Maya nodded. I appreciate that, Sergeant, but I should tell you that there were at least 7 civilians recording the entire encounter on their phones. The footage is probably already online. Rodriguez picked up his phone and did a quick search. Within seconds, he found the videos. They were everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Some videos already had tens of thousands of views. He watched one of them, and his face got darker as he watched. In the video, Maya was clearly calm and respectful. She asked reasonable questions. Hansen was aggressive from the start. The moment when he grabbed her roughly was captured perfectly. The spilled coffee, the illegal search. All of it was there for the world to see. Officer Chen, get Officer Hansen on the radio right now. Tell him to come back to the station immediately, Rodriguez said. While Chen made the call, Rodriguez processed Maya through the system. Fingerprints, photo, paperwork. Maya cooperated with everything. She knew that resisting now would only make things worse. Besides, she was building her case. Every procedural step that happened would be documented. Every moment she stayed in custody added to the violation of her civil rights. When the processing was done, Rodriguez led Maya to a small room with a phone. You can make your call here. Take as much time as you need. Maya picked up the phone and dialed her office. Her paralegal, James, answered on the second ring. Thompson Law Office. James, it's Maya. I need you to listen carefully because I don't have much time. Maya, are you okay? You sound stressed. I've been arrested by the police. False arrest. I'm at the central station right now. What? That's insane. What happened? Maya quickly explained the situation. As she talked, she could hear James typing on his computer. He was already taking notes, already starting to build the case file. Okay, I've got all that, James said. What do you need me to do? First, file a request for all body camera footage from Officers Hansen and Chen. Do it today. Second, file a formal complaint with Internal Affairs. Third, start pulling up any previous complaints against Officer Derek Hansen. I want to know if he has a history of this. On it, anything else? Yes. Call David and tell him I'm okay. Tell him not to worry and that I'll be home soon. Don't let Zoe know what happened. I'll explain it to her myself tonight. I'll call him right now. Maya, do you want me to call any of the partners? They'll want to know. Maya thought about this. Her law firm had 3 senior partners. They were all good people who would support her. But she also didn't want this to seem like she was making a big deal out of nothing. Except it wasn't nothing. It was a clear violation of her rights. Call Patricia, she'll know what to do. Will do. Hang in there, Maya. We'll get you out of this. Maya hung up the phone. She felt better now. The wheels were in motion. Her office was working on her behalf. Evidence was being preserved. The case was starting to build. Rodriguez was waiting outside the room. All done with your call? Yes, thank you. I'm going to have to put you in a holding cell while we sort this out, but I promise you, I'm reviewing everything about this arrest. If it's not legitimate, you'll be released immediately. And if I'm released, will Officer Hansen face any consequences? Maya asked. Rodriguez hesitated. That's not my decision. But I'll make sure the appropriate people know what happened here. Maya knew what that meant. It meant probably nothing would happen. Officers protected each other. The system was designed to protect itself. But Maya also knew that this time was different. This time there was video evidence from multiple sources. This time the person who was arrested was a civil rights attorney who knew exactly how to fight back. Rodriguez led Maya down a hallway to the holding cells. There were several cells, most of them empty. He put Maya in a clean cell by herself. The cell had a bench and a toilet. That was all. The door clanged shut with a heavy metal sound that echoed in the hallway. Someone will come get you soon, Rodriguez said. Then he was gone, and Maya was alone. She sat down on the bench and took a deep breath. 6 hours ago, she had been kissing her daughter goodbye at school. Now she was sitting in a jail cell. The change was jarring, but Maya wasn't scared. She was angry. This happened to people every day. Black people, brown people, poor people. They got stopped for no reason. They got arrested on false charges. They got roughed up by police who faced no consequences. Maya had represented so many of them. She had heard their stories. She had seen their fear and their trauma. Now she understood it on a deeper level. She understood the humiliation of being handcuffed in public, the helplessness of being locked in a cage, the anger of being treated like a criminal when you'd done nothing wrong. But unlike most of her clients, Maya had resources. She had education. She had a law degree and knowledge of the system. She had a law firm backing her up. She had the financial means to fight back. And fight back she would. 6 months after the settlement, Maya sat in her office looking at the latest quarterly report from the police department. As part of the settlement agreement, the department had to provide regular updates on their progress implementing the reforms. The numbers were mixed. The implicit bias training had been completed by all officers. Maya had reviewed the curriculum herself and insisted on changes to make it more substantive. Instead of a one-day seminar, it was now a full week of intensive training with role-playing exercises and examinations. Officers who failed the exam had to retake the training. The early warning system was up and running. In the first 6 months, it had flagged 12 officers for concerning patterns of behavior. 8 of them had been given additional supervision and counseling. 2 had been suspended pending investigation. 2 had resigned rather than face discipline. The Civilian Oversight Board now had 7 members instead of 3. They were reviewing complaints more thoroughly and asking harder questions. They still didn't have final authority to discipline officers, but they were making their voices heard. Several of their recommendations had been adopted by the police chief. It wasn't perfect. There were still problems. Some officers resented the new training and saw it as punishment. Some supervisors weren't taking the early warning system seriously. The police union was still fighting against many of the reforms, but progress was happening. Slowly, incrementally, but happening. Maya had taken the $750,000 from the settlement and created a legal defense fund for victims of police misconduct who couldn't afford attorneys. The fund had already helped 15 people file complaints and lawsuits. 3 cases had settled in favor of the plaintiffs. 2 were still ongoing. The rest were in various stages of investigation. She also used some of the money to establish a community education program. She held free workshops teaching people their rights when interacting with police. Know Your Rights cards were printed and distributed throughout the city. Knowledge was power, and Maya wanted people to have that power. Her own law practice had grown significantly. The publicity from her case brought in new clients. Other attorneys called asking for advice on similar cases. Maya was invited to speak at conferences and universities. She had become a recognized expert on police misconduct and civil rights law. But success came with costs. Maya still got hate mail occasionally. She still had to be careful about her security. Some people saw her as a hero. Others saw her as a cop hater who was making it harder for police to do their jobs. Maya didn't see herself as either. She was just someone who believed in accountability and justice. Officer Lisa Chen had indeed faced retaliation for testifying. She was given the worst assignments. Her colleagues stopped talking to her. Her partner requested a transfer. Chen stuck it out for a few months, but eventually the hostile environment became too much. She resigned from the police department. Maya felt guilty about this. Chen had done the right thing and lost her career because of it. So Maya hired Chen as an investigator for her law firm. Chen's knowledge of police procedures and insider perspective was invaluable. She was good at the work and seemed happier than she had been as an officer. "I don't regret speaking up," Chen told Maya one day. "I regret not speaking up sooner. Maybe if I had said something the first time I saw Hansen mistreat someone, things would have been different." "Maybe," Maya said. "But you can't change the past. You can only learn from it and do better going forward." That was true for everyone involved in the case. Maya had learned that even with education and resources, being a victim was traumatic. She had always had empathy for her clients, but now she had a deeper understanding of what they went through. It made her a better attorney. The department had learned that ignoring problem officers eventually creates bigger problems. That documentation matters. That public accountability matters. That training matters. At least Maya hoped they had learned those lessons. Only time would tell. The community had learned that speaking up makes a difference, that solidarity matters, that ordinary people can challenge powerful institutions and sometimes win. The 15 people who came to that church meeting had inspired others. More people were filing complaints when they were mistreated. More people were demanding answers. The culture was slowly changing. One evening, Maya drove to Maple Street. She parked in front of Morning Brew, the same coffee shop where everything had started. She sat in her car for a moment, remembering that day. The fear and anger she felt when Hanson approached her. The humiliation of being handcuffed. The determination to fight back. She got out of her car and walked into the coffee shop. The young barista recognized her immediately. "Dr. Thompson, it's good to see you. The usual?" "Yes, please." While her latte was being made, Maya looked around. The shop looked the same. Nothing had changed except everything had changed. This place had been the scene of an injustice, but it had also been the place where witnesses recorded evidence that led to accountability. It had been the catalyst for reform. Maya took her coffee outside and sat at one of the small tables on the sidewalk. It was a beautiful afternoon. The sun was warm. The street was busy with people going about their lives. A police car drove by slowly. The officer inside glanced at Maya. She looked back calmly. The officer nodded respectfully and kept driving. That small interaction meant something. It meant Maya had reclaimed this space. She wasn't going to let fear or trauma prevent her from living her life. She wasn't going to let one bad officer make her afraid of all police. She would continue to hold them accountable when they were wrong. But she would also acknowledge them when they did their jobs correctly. Her phone buzzed with a text from David. He was picking up Zoe from soccer practice and they'd be home in an hour. Maya smiled. Her family had been her anchor through all of this. David's steady support. Zoe's innocent faith that her mother would make things right. They reminded her what she was fighting for. A young black man walked past Maya's table, then stopped. "Excuse me, are you Dr. Thompson?" Maya looked up. "Yes, I am. I just wanted to say thank you. I saw what happened to you and how you fought back. It inspired me. I had a similar thing happen to me last year, but I didn't do anything about it because I thought no one would believe me. After seeing you, I filed a complaint. They're actually investigating it." "That's wonderful," Maya said. "Good for you for speaking up. I was scared to do it, but you showed me it was possible, so thank you." The young man walked away, and Maya felt a warmth in her chest. This was why she did this work, not for the money or the recognition, but for moments like this, when someone found the courage to stand up for themselves because they saw someone else do it first. Maya thought about Margaret Williams, the woman whose son Kenneth had been killed by police. Maya had taken on Kenneth's case and filed a wrongful death lawsuit. It was still working its way through the courts, but they had uncovered evidence that the officer's story didn't match the physical evidence. Maya was hopeful they would get justice for Kenneth and his mother. She thought about the other victims she had met at the church meeting. Some had decided to pursue legal action. Others just wanted their stories heard. All of them deserved better than what they got from the system that was supposed to protect them. Maya finished her coffee and stood up. She had work to do back at the office. There was always another case, another client who needed help, another injustice to fight. But she felt energized rather than exhausted. This was her calling. This was her purpose. As she walked to her car, she thought about how much had changed in 6 months. Hanson was gone from the police force. The department had new training and oversight. People were more aware of their rights. Victims were finding their voices. It wasn't everything she had hoped for, but it was progress. Maya knew the work wasn't finished. There would be other bad officers. There would be other victims. The system's problems ran deep and wouldn't be fixed overnight. But every case she won, every reform she pushed through, every person she helped mattered. Change happened one step at a time. She drove through the city, past neighborhoods rich and poor, diverse and segregated. This was her home. These were her people. All of them, regardless of race or background, deserved to be treated with dignity and respect, especially by those who were supposed to serve and protect them. When Maya arrived home, Zoe came running to hug her. "Mommy, Guess what? I scored a goal at practice today. That's amazing, baby. Tell me all about it. They went inside and Zoe launched into an excited description of her goal. David started making dinner. It was an ordinary evening in an ordinary house. But Maya knew how precious ordinary was. She knew how easily it could be disrupted by an encounter with police who saw you as suspicious rather than as a human being. Later that night, after Zoe was in bed, Maya and David sat on the couch together. The TV was on, but they weren't really watching it. They were just enjoying being together, being safe, being home. "Do you ever regret taking on the case?" David asked. "All the stress and hate mail and everything?" Maya thought about this. "No, I don't regret it. It was hard, but it mattered. And if I hadn't fought back, Hansen would still be out there harassing people. The department would still be ignoring complaints. Nothing would have changed." "You changed things," David said. "You actually changed things. That's rare." "I had help. Patricia, James, Officer Chen, the witnesses, the other victims. I didn't do it alone. But you led the way. You showed everyone else it was possible." Maya smiled. "Maybe. Or maybe I was just the right person in the right place at the right time. Someone who had the knowledge and resources to fight back. Someone who couldn't be easily dismissed or intimidated." "Well, I'm proud of you," David said, kissing her forehead. "I'm proud of me too," Maya admitted. "Not in an arrogant way, but in a way where I know I did the right thing even when it was hard." The next morning, Maya woke up early as usual. She went through her morning routine. Shower, coffee, breakfast with her family. She drove Zoe to school and gave her a hug goodbye. Then she headed to her office. There was a new case waiting on her desk. A Hispanic woman had been stopped by police for a broken taillight. The stop had escalated when she didn't understand the officer's commands quickly enough. She had been arrested and her car had been searched. Sound familiar? Maya read through the case file carefully. The woman's name was Rosa Martinez. She was 43 years old and worked as a housekeeper. She had 3 children. She couldn't afford to miss work because of court dates, but she also couldn't afford to have an arrest on her record. She needed help. Maya picked up the phone and called Rosa. "Ms. Martinez, this is Dr. Maya Thompson. I received your case file and I'd like to help you." Rosa's voice was shaky with emotion. "Really? You would help me? I saw you on the news. I know you're a good lawyer, but I don't have much money." "Don't worry about the money right now. Let's focus on getting you justice. Can you come to my office tomorrow so we can talk about what happened?" Yes, I can come. Thank you so much, Dr. Thompson. I was so scared no one would believe me." "I believe you, Ms. Martinez, and we're going to make sure you're treated fairly." After hanging up, Maya sat back in her chair and looked around her office. The walls were covered with framed certificates and awards, photos of her with clients who had won their cases, a picture of Zoe on her desk, a quote on the wall from Thurgood Marshall. "In recognizing the humanity of our fellow beings, we pay ourselves the highest tribute." This was her life's work, fighting for people who needed someone to fight for them, challenging systems that were unjust, making sure that everyone, regardless of their background or circumstances, had access to justice. Maya Thompson had been arrested for no reason except the color of her skin. She had been handcuffed, processed, and caged. She had been violated and humiliated. But she had refused to be defeated. She had used her knowledge and resources to fight back. And she had won. But more importantly, she had opened doors for others to fight back too. She had shown that accountability was possible, that change was possible, that one person's courage could ripple outward and create waves of justice. The system wasn't fixed. There was still so much work to do. But Maya had proven that the system could be challenged, that ordinary people could stand up to powerful institutions and sometimes win, that justice, while often delayed, was still worth fighting for. As she prepared for her meeting with Rosa Martinez, Maya felt a sense of purpose and determination. This was just the beginning. There would be more cases, more fights, more victories and setbacks. But she would keep going. For Rosa, for Margaret Williams, for Kenneth Williams. For all the people who had been wronged and needed someone to believe in them. Maya had been outsmarted by the system many times in her career. But on that day at the coffee shop, when Officer Hansen tried to intimidate her into compliance, she had outsmarted him. Not through trickery or deception, but through knowledge, composure, and an unwavering belief in her rights and dignity. And that victory, though personal, had become something larger. It had become a symbol of resistance, a reminder that knowledge is power, that knowing your rights matters, that staying calm in the face of injustice is a form of strength, that speaking up, even when you're scared, can change things. Maya looked out her office window at the city below. Somewhere out there, someone was being treated unfairly by police. Somewhere, someone was deciding whether to fight back or stay silent. Somewhere, someone was gathering the courage to demand justice. She hoped they would find that courage. She hoped they would speak up. She hoped they would know their rights and stand firm. And if they needed help, she hoped they would find someone like her. Someone who understood what they were going through and would fight alongside them. Because that was how change happened. Not through one big moment, but through countless small acts of courage by ordinary people refusing to accept injustice. Through lawyers who took cases that others wouldn't. Through witnesses who recorded evidence on their phones. Through officers like Chen who chose truth over loyalty to a corrupt system. Maya Thompson had outsmarted a racist cop. But more than that, she had become a beacon for others to follow. And in doing so, she had helped create a world that was just a little bit more fair, a little bit more just, a little bit better than it was before. That was enough. For now, it was enough.